And the reason that we're in the crisis that we are today is not because of anything that China did, is not because of anything the WHO did. It's because of what this president did.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about U.S. intelligence officials exploring the possibility of the China virus, the Wuhan virus, whatever you want to call it, originating from the lab in Wuhan and then spreading from there. Patient zero apparently caught it from a bat, and then he went out into the general population and spread it human to human. Now, this story is really big for a lot of different reasons. First of all, it shows that China may be involved in the big time cover up. OK, and they were trying to protect their citizens, but not global people, not anybody else all over the world, because right when the outbreak happened, they stopped domestic travel from Wuhan to other provinces, to other cities. However, they did not immediately stop international flights. OK, and they covered it up. They knew for at least 6 days that this whole thing was happening, but didn't do anything to stop it. They just tried to cover it up, sweep it under a rug so they didn't get found out. Now, the reason why this virus was in the lab to begin with, according to what I'm reading, is because China was trying to find viruses and find ways to deal with them, vaccines or whatever, to show that they were better than the U.S. and that they were stronger than the U.S. So this could have been an ego thing from the Chinese Communist Party. As a result, you have patient zero in the lab. He goes out and spreads it to wherever he spreads it to. Now, if you know about Wuhan, if you know about China, you do have wet markets where you got the bats and the rats and the cats and the dogs that just got killed. They put them on the barbecue, they put them on a little grate or whatever and sell them right there fresh. So the guy from inside the lab could have left the lab, gone straight to a wet market where you already have a nasty environment and spread it that way. To me, that kind of makes sense, because even before you had any kind of lab like this in Wuhan or anywhere else in China, plenty of plagues, diseases, or whatever come from China. Let's go all the way back to the bubonic plague in Europe. That came from rats in China, through the Silk Road, the plague of Justinian, all the way up to the swine flu, Hong Kong flu, the Russian flu, now the Wuhan virus. There's always been contagions and diseases and viruses that come from this place due to their environment, how they live, how they operate, how they just mix all these nasty creatures together. It is what it is, but I'll move on. Now, the media have crow on their face, not really trying to brag, but it is what it is. CNN is one of the main offenders. I think at this point, nobody trusts CNN anymore. Even guys that work there don't like CNN, Chris Cuomo, but I'll move on. People realize that CNN sucks. First, they were saying that if you were talking about the Wuhan virus coming from a lab, that you were floating unfounded conspiracy theories. It didn't come from a lab. It didn't get created, this, that, and the third. Now we have credible information, credible sources, and the government itself of the United States, not other governments, not China, obviously, looking into the fact that this virus did come from a lab and that it was spread by the Chinese and it was covered up with the help of the World Health Organization. This is why we have cut funding to them. Why would we fund the World Health Organization? They helped China cover it up. Remember, they say, oh, there's no evidence of human-to-human transmission. Meanwhile, China knew that there was human-to-human transmission, which is why they shut off travel from Wuhan to other parts of the country, to other parts of the province. Really, you couldn't even, the lockdown was instant and immediate. If there was no human-to-human transmission, why did they lock their country down? All right. They say, oh, well, don't shut down any international flights. While at the same time, China has shut down domestic travel through foot, car, bike, rail, or whatever. So obviously, the World Health Organization, the UN, which is the parent of the World Health Organization, they're all in China's pocket. I saw this crazy interview. I believe the reporter was Taiwanese. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Could have been a Hong Konger. I'm not really sure. But anyway, the reporter was asking the World Health Organization official about Taiwan and how they tried to warn the world about this whole situation and other things. She kept saying Taiwan, Taiwan. He wasn't really trying to hear it. Matter of fact, check this out.
Will the WHO consider Taiwan's membership? Hello?
I'm sorry, I can't hear. I couldn't hear your question.
Okay, yeah. Let me repeat the question.
No, that's okay. Let's move to another one then.
Right, because I'm actually curious on talking about Taiwan as well, on Taiwan's case.
We decided to give Dr. Alward another call to follow up.
And I just want to see if you can comment a bit on how Taiwan has done so far in terms of containing the virus.
Well, we've already talked about China, and when you look across all the different areas of China, they've actually all done quite a good job. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for inviting us to participate, and good luck as you go forward with the battle in Hong Kong.
So you saw that right there. First, he was like acting like he didn't hear her. Just, didn't say anything, didn't respond, kind of just stared into space. And then when she asked something else, all of a sudden now I can hear. He says, let's move on to something else. I don't want to talk about that, basically. All right. Because you don't want to talk about how Taiwan is not recognized as a country by China. When she brought it up again after he got back on the phone, after he hung up on her, because he didn't want to talk about Taiwan, he kept saying, I already spoke about China. China's doing a great job. Taiwan is not China, at least in the eyes of Taiwan. But to China, it is China. You understand? Same thing with Hong Kong, Macau, Tibet, but that's a different story. And I'll move on. The whole point is that the World Health Organization and the UN and other global organizations are in the pocket of the Chinese Communist Party, as is Hollywood, as are many American companies. It's simple as that. So these media outlets, all your three-letter alphabet leftists, left-wing organizations, really, that say, oh, well, if you're talking about the Wuhan virus coming from China, you're racist, you're a xenophobe, it didn't get created in the lab, it was an accident, all this, that, and the third. If it was an accident, okay, that's fine. But what's up with the cover-up from the Chinese Communist Party and the World Health Organization and everybody else on the left talking about, oh, there's no real big deal here. People like Nancy Pelosi and many others saying, hey, go out, enjoy Chinese New Year, go here, go there. Now they want to say, oh, well, we should have done more things from the beginning to shut down the country. President Trump didn't act quick enough. But when Trump shut off the travel from China against the World Health Organization's recommendations, then he was a xenophobe, then he was a racist, then he was this, that, and the third. All negative things. It's really weird how these things work out. But at the end of the day, as I close, I'm glad that Trump took that action to shut off travel from China to the U.S. and did not buy into the Chinese Communist Party's propaganda that everything was fine, that everything was safe. Obviously, we have a pair of eyes. We can see what's going on in China from those videos that were floating around on social media. People were dropping dead, bodies all over the place. You don't want whatever that got going on to come over here. And why would China shut off travel domestically but not internationally? You see, what's really going on? I don't really know, but I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that China was experimenting with the virus in the lab to try and come up with a cure for it or to identify it, and then it just escaped the lab because of carelessness, and then they covered it up? All evidence points to that, but if that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Also, do you think that I'm wrong here? That this did not get created in the lab? It was not in the lab. They were not working on it in the lab. It just was an accident from bats and rats and cats and dogs. Maybe you think it didn't come from China. Maybe it came from somewhere else. I'm not really sure where the epicenter actually is. Some say it was created in a lab in North Carolina, and then it went to China. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it was, quote unquote, created in the lab in North Carolina, and then it went to China. Who was responsible for letting it out and affecting the whole world? Who was responsible for covering up for days, if not weeks, maybe even months? who was responsible for putting out the lie that said, oh, there's no human to human transmission. Don't worry about that. Oh, there's no safety risk of having flights come directly from Wuhan to the U.S. and other countries around the world. Don't worry about that. Tell that to the Italians who had direct Wuhan flights. Tell that to Americans who have like 30,000 dead. Tell that to the Canadians. Tell that to people in UK and France and Germany and Iran and everywhere else all over the world that have become victim to this particular virus. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.